Well, it sounds like a lot of the wise guys, maybe the contrarian people, are all picking Aldana to go in here and spring the upset. I'm not in that camp. What I've seen from her hasn't really been all that impressive. I go back to her last fight against Jason, where she got lucky and she was clearly losing that fight in the second round. I scored that like a 10-8 round, and then going into the third, I think at least midway through she was getting beat. She was on the ground on her back. She landed that up kick and
Yep.
clipped her in the liver.
Like one of the craziest finishes. That's a rare finish, a body kick finish from the ground. That's pretty wild.
I mean, you got to give her credit for landing it, but I clearly had her losing that fight. And then the fight before that against Santos, she clearly won that fight. I mean, she pretty much mauled her. But what I've seen from her, at least on the ground, not impressive. And I think that that's where Nunes is going to go here. Like you were talking about, getting a little bit older, getting a little bit slower, worried about that gas tank. And I think that's what Nunes is going to do here. I think she's going to go in there and try to get a bunch of takedowns and just try to grind out a win here. I mean, when she fought Pena, she went for 8 attempts, takedowns, and landed 6 of them. And she had like almost 12 minutes of control time. So I think that that's her path to victory. I'm not necessarily sure that it goes the distance. I was actually looking at Nunes to go ahead and win this one by submission. It's not like she hasn't submitted people before. She won the title that way when she beat Tate. I think she might look to go that route here. And what I've seen from Aldana on the ground is not impressive. So that's what I was looking to do here with Amanda. Maybe with my best bet, I can go ahead and maybe parlay her because I am looking at taking a little bit of chalk for my best bet. But I don't see Amanda losing here. But let me ask you this question because this is kind of what I was thinking. Let's say she wins this fight, AJ. Is there a chance that she retires and then she comes out of retirement to go ahead and finish the trilogy off with Pena?
For my best bet, I'm going to go with Nasruddin Imavov against Chris Curtis. This is the featured prelim fight, which I'll be honest, when you look at the full card, this should probably be the third fight on the pay-per-view. I'm not sure why this isn't on the pay-per-view card. Imavov just headlined a fight night. Chris Curtis was just in one of the better fights we've seen in a long time with Kelvin Gastelum, and now these guys are on the prelims. It doesn't make much sense, but both guys, I mentioned both those guys' last fights coming off losses. Curtis dropped a tough decision against Kelvin Gastelum, controversial because Gastelum dropped Curtis, but when you look at the replay, it was a headbutt, like a clash of heads is what dropped Curtis, and they never called it that. They never told the judges that. So the judges score that round for Gastelum. A tough break for Chris Curtis, certainly. And Imavov, I thought, looked a little bit overmatched against Sean Strickland. I thought he'd be more competitive. I actually thought he'd win that fight, especially Strickland coming in on short notice. But I do think Imavov presents some problems for Curtis. At 6'3", a middleweight, that's a big middleweight. I think he's going to give Curtis some trouble. Curtis, who's like 5'9", a stockier middleweight. And if you remember the Jack Hermanson fight that Chris Curtis had, it was sort of that same thing. Like Curtis struggled with the distance. He struggled to get inside and do any real damage against Hermanson. And Imavov is a super technical striker. He's got a proven chin. He's never been finished. So when you take that into account and you think Curtis's best chance is landing some sort of a big shot, I just don't have that worry with Imavov. I don't worry about him getting crushed. I think Curtis is durable, so I think he's going to be tough to get out. But I do think there's going to be some frustration for Chris Curtis. So I like Imavov here, minus 150. That'll be my best bet for this pod, and I think that he probably wins a nice decision here, a comfortable decision here.